Welcome to a special edition of The Standings, the sports show where we review the sports standings, except we're sitting. I'm so excited for this. We're doing an NFL Week 4 coverage. I'm excited you're here. You weren't here last week. Welcome.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be back. Week 4 was pretty intense, and there's a lot of games to cover.
There was a lot of matchups, and we're going to be all here for it. Let's head into our first segment, that being today's headlines. We had the Steelers taking on the Vikings. They were actually in Dublin, Ireland. It was a great game. We saw Aaron Rodgers kind of come out like he was a 24-year-old again, and they won 24-21 against the Vikings. What's your headline?
So today's headline is Vikings have international loss. It's their first loss of the season, which, it's kind of hard when the NFL teams are going overseas, 100%. That can be draining on the players, and the Vikings are still a good team, but the Steelers are really pulling out this season too. But like you said before, the key thing here was Aaron Rodgers, but also Carson Wentz. The quarterback game here was just so strong, and Rodgers had 10 completed passes, his first 10 passes completed, and then that touchdown pass to DK Metcalf for that 80 yards, that was insane. And we just love to see that with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I really think that Aaron Rodgers lit it up, but my headline for this is actually backup slinging it, and that was Carson Wentz, who Aaron Rodgers threw 22 passes, and Carson Wentz threw 46 passes in this game. For instance, J.J. McCarthy in his first 2 starts did not throw that many passes. Carson Wentz in one game, Kevin O'Connell says, you got to throw 46 passes because we can't get the run game going. I think that Aaron Rodgers getting that completion to DK Metcalf kind of broke out the game for the Steelers and kind of put the Vikings in a weird position where they were going to have to get their offense churning a little bit more. Carson Wentz did throw for over 300 yards and did have a great game, but this was just a weird game for the Vikings. Yeah, Jefferson and Addison had over 100 yards receiving, but what does this say about the Vikings moving forward if they can have this explosive of an offensive game, but they can't convert on key third downs and get actually in the end zone?
What's interesting about the Vikings, too, is they lost 2 players due to injury. So they lost Ryan O'Neal and Ryan Kelly, which are, key players for them. And Ryan Kelly's, evaluated for a concussion right now. It's a bit of an issue. But going back to Carson Wentz really quick, too, this was a career best for him when he had those 11 completed passes and those 2 touchdowns. That's great stats for Carson Wentz. But I do see where you say Minnesota's falling behind because they had a lot of miscues in this game. They had 8 flags and a bunch of penalties.
Yeah, I think that Kevin O'Connell relying so much on somebody like Carson Wentz, somebody who hasn't been the caliber that he is since he was on the Eagles. I understand he was passing very good this game, and he was doing great. But you have to trick the defense and establish a run game at the same time. And I think that's what the Steelers did pretty well here. With Kenneth Gainwell having a career-high 99 yards in the game, he hasn't looked that good since he's been a third stringer on the Eagles. So when you establish the run game and then you have Aaron Rodgers not passing a lot, I think this is where the Steelers are most comfortable and where they're going to thrive this season. I want to move to our next one, that being the Eagles. They went down to Tampa Bay and took on the Bucs. They beat them 31-25. What is your headline for this game?
So my headline for this game is just Jalen Hurts. Is he where he's supposed to be? Yes. Jalen Hurts, you need to give him credit where credit is due. He is the 3rd quarterback in 30 years to be able to go 18-0 in the past 18 games that he's played in, start to finish. He is up there with Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Jalen Hurts is meant for the Eagles right now. He's in his prime, and he needs to be watched out for because he will be up there with the greats, which is kind of crazy to say because he flies under the radar a lot, but he's really important to this team.
Before I get into my headline, I just want to say I totally agree with you on that. And that's what I was going to get into. Hurts is a mistake-free quarterback. No, he's not the most flashy passing quarterback. No, he might not win it rushing if the quarterback is contained by the defense. But Jalen Hurts is meant for this team. I think he's a perfect fit for the Eagles. Yes, they have a great roster. Yeah, they're real bulked up on the defensive end as well. But he kind of is perfect. I have to agree with you there. But my headline for this game is a comeback that nearly hurts. And that meaning Tampa Bay was out of this game for most of it. It started off with the Eagles getting on the scoreboard with a blocked punt. Their special teams has been so good this season. Probably the best special teams in the NFL. We're probably looking at, after this matchup, the best team in the NFL. I think Tampa Bay comes out of this game and they're very optimistic going forward. And you have to be optimistic if you're Tampa Bay because you didn't have Mike Evans. You had key injuries on the defense. and you were still in this game some way, somehow. It still came down to one possession. I really don't understand how it did, considering that some other guys like Chris Godwin couldn't even get it going, but guys like Emeka Egbuka, guys like Bucky Irving, who had nearly 170 yards this game, that is just absurd to me.
Yeah, and Nick Sirianni even noted that the Eagles had a rough second half. Jalen Hurts had a rough second half, and that's where the Bucs were really able to just persevere because they had so many big numbers this game. I mean, that 65 kick that they made, and then 2 70-yard touchdowns are huge numbers for the Bucs, and this is really great for them moving forward. And the Eagles shouldn't have been too confident going forward with the Bucs because they're a bit of a competitor that fly under the radar. So this is really huge for them to continue on for the rest of the season. And just because they lost to the Eagles, honestly, shouldn't even mean anything at this point because everyone's losing to the Eagles.
Yeah, and going into this game, I think Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were the Eagles' kryptonite going in. So no longer are they the kryptonite in this game because I know there were key injuries to Tampa Bay, but you come out of this game if you're the Eagles and you say, we finally beat this team after so long. I want to move into our next game, that being the Chargers, who took on the Giants and their rookie quarterback, Jaxon. The Giants came out victorious here with a 21-18 victory, and it was very surprising. I think MetLife Stadium was really amped up from this victory. What do you think?
So you just have to look at Dart's debut day. That was wonderful for him just to go out there and get a win. I mean, his touchdown with his first drive is great for a rookie quarterback, and that's just so exciting to feel for him. And I mean, when you're going against another huge quarterback like Justin Herbert and he's not playing as well, when you are a rookie quarterback and you're seeing that, I bet your confidence is so boosted, and it's really interesting to see the Giants win this one here.
Yeah, my headline here is actually the Chargers continue to charger it up. I don't want to make it about the Giants. I understand the Giants had a great game. Jaxon Dart showed flashes of being good, but statistically, he really wasn't that good. He was great on his legs. That touchdown that we first saw when he ran into the end zone, that really hyped up the fans and really got everybody going, and I understand where this is going. But we have to see where he played at college. That was probably a byproduct of his play style and everything that came into going into this game. But Jaxon Dart didn't really impress me that much. It was really the Giants' defense that stepped it up for me. And in particular, Justin Herbert throwing 2 interceptions here. When I say charger it up, this is what I mean by charger it up. There's just games that you got to have. We talk about in the division, the AFC West. If they win this game and the Chiefs lose this game, they are up 4 games after week 4. If they lose the game and the Chiefs win the game, they're only up 2 games. So not only are the Chiefs back in the division because you lose a game that you shouldn't have to an 0-3 team, but now you're looking at a really bad situation where your offense isn't churning as much as it was in these first few weeks. I don't really understand what's going on with the Chargers in this game in particular. I think they've looked way better. I think that Justin Herbert has looked like an MVP caliber quarterback, and we saw weird weeks by him and Daniel Jones, who we'll talk about later.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what's going on with the Chargers, but one key player that you haven't mentioned with the Giants, and I know you said you wanted to get off of the Giants a little bit, focus on the Chargers, but let's look at Scatterboo here. I mean, he is undeniably doing so well right now. And, I mean, of course he's just playing in place of Tyrone Tracy, but I could picture him sneaking up into that one spot right there and just getting his field on the team.
You know, I do really agree. I just think that the Giants are really loading his carries. I mean, he had 25 carries this game. He's had 20 carries in the past 2 games. They're trying to get him experience, and I totally understand that. But with these young running backs, you're going to get them injured by doing that, and I don't know if the Giants are taking the right path here. Let's do one more quick, that being the Commanders, who took on the Falcons, and they actually lost 27-34. Falcons come out victorious here. What's your headline?
My headline here is Commanders are incomplete as a team. It's a mess with the Commanders, and it's crazy to say. But, I mean, they had penalties, they had missed opportunities, the team is hurt, the scoring game isn't there, they don't have their footing. The Commanders are just a mess to watch. But the main thing keeping this Commanders team intact is their special teams. You can't rely on special teams for the whole season. You need to figure yourself out there a little bit. And for the Commanders, they just need to have a better season, and they need to make changes fast. That's just how it needs to be.
Yeah, I'm going to actually push it on the Falcons, and my headline is the roller coaster that's headed back downhill. I just want to read you the past few weeks of what's happened with the Falcons, and tell me if this really confuses you a little bit. So, last week they lost to the Panthers, who just got blown out by the Patriots, and we know the Panthers aren't a good team, 30-0. So, a big statement win there by the Panthers. The week before that, they beat the Vikings 22-6. On a Sunday night football game that kind of left us bewildered after that. It was like, okay, the Falcons defense is for real in this game. And then the first week, they take on Tampa, and they contend with them to the final possession. A missed field goal is the difference between that and overtime with who we think is a Super Bowl contender right here. So I understand that the Falcons looked really good in this game, and their offense finally got churning, and that's a product of Michael Penix being really good. But I don't understand where the Falcons are going to go this season if they keep on going up and down every game. That's just not going to work.
I think the Falcons just look good because the Commanders look bad. I think that's what it is in there. And yeah, the Falcons might just be an up and down team for the rest of the season, but they need this win going into their bye week, and maybe we'll see what comes out of them from here.
Yeah, that has been today's headlines. Let's head into our next segment, that being takeaway time. So I want to look at our first game here for takeaway time, that being the Jags, who took on the Niners. They beat them 26-21, and now the Jags head to 3-1.
So what I want to look at first is the 49ers. I mean, the defense of the 49ers are the star of this team right now, and the offense just really needs a spark up to keep them alive, and they shouldn't need that. They should be consistently playing, but when your defense is doing so well, your offense really needs to boost up. And, I mean, they started playing well when Pearsall picked up the game a bit, but you shouldn't rely on one player just to keep your game up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there about the Niners. I want to make it about the Jags a little bit, and that's that the Jags will make the playoffs. They'll make the playoffs maybe as a byproduct of the AFC being so bad, but with this Jags team, Etienne has finally got it going on the ground, which has helped the offense, and a struggling Trevor Lawrence as he's come into this season. But on the defensive side as well, you kind of mentioned with the Niners and their struggles and some of, they actually got through this game pretty well as a defensive front, but for the Jags here, they have a really good defense, and it might carry them through this division here, because now you're contending with the Colts for the division, you are keeping it tight, and at the same time, I want to look at the Niners, who are in an even tougher division. I mean, you mentioned they've already struggled with some injuries, but also they live in a division with the Rams and the Seahawks, who are also 3-1. So when you live in a division like that, it's going to be tough to keep battling injuries. And somebody like Nick Bosa, who goes out last week, has a torn ACL. I mean, that moves points on the spread. He is that good of a player. So the Niners, they're really showing me that there's not too much there. And one thing I want to pinpoint, and I want to get your opinion on this, is Brock Purdy in particular. He's turning the ball over in these last two games, and when we saw Mac Jones play, he was not turning the ball over. At what point do we have the conversation that Kyle Shanahan needs somebody to game manage, not to go out and be superhero?
I think that is a big issue right now in the NFL as a whole, but looking at Brock Purdy, I mean, he was just injured a little bit too, so is it because he was injured and now he doesn't really know how to play? Like, what is going on with Brock Purdy? And yeah, he's been the star of the 49ers for how long? But that's not the point here. Just because something used to work doesn't mean it works now. So maybe you need to figure out a different way to help your team, because you can't be in this hard division where everybody has the same record as you and then you're slipping under the radar because your quarterback is just not playing to how he should be.
A guy like Christian McCaffrey really carries that offense and kind of skews our image of what the quarterback actually is. Because when guys were down in Carolina with McCaffrey, they looked pretty good. But that's just because Christian McCaffrey is that good.
Yeah.
So when you're in a division like this, you want to rely on the guy, but you can't fully rely on him. You need to get your pieces back in playing, and playing at a high level as well. Because we once saw this team only a few years ago as a Super Bowl team. So can we get to that level? I'm not so sure this season. There's a lot of injuries. But as far as the Jags go, they've got a good chance to take this division, make the playoffs. I think it's a lot of optimism there. Let's move into our next game, that being the Colts, who took on the Rams. They lost 20-27. The Rams with the go-ahead touchdown at the end. What's your takeaway?
So my takeaway here I'm going to look at the Colts. In week 4, they had the number 12 defense. They are not holding their weight. They were number 16 in week 3. They went up 4 different spaces, and you're still just not playing to the caliber that you should be playing at. I mean, the Colts defense had a hard time getting to Stafford. They left him untouched 73% of the time. That's way too much for a defense in a football game. And, I mean, let's look at Daniel Jones. He was doing so well in weeks 1, 2, and 3. Now he's cracking under pressure. He worked too hard. He worked too much. And this is what happens. You're seeing a lot of the cracks break through right now with this Colts team.
I think there's a lot to be said here, but my takeaway from this is what perfect looks like for the Rams this season. Matthew Stafford having the game of his life, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a 128 passer rating. He has nearly 400 yards passing. Puka Nacua being 170 yards of that passing. He is by far the best receiver this season, no doubt. I know Justin Jefferson exists. I know Jamar Chase exists. But their quarterback problems leave them with the commotion of maybe you're not the best in the league. I mean, that's just how it goes. Cam Curl had 2 interceptions on the defensive side in this game, which kind of woes our worries about this secondary. If Cam Curl can get it done and kind of carry that secondary, maybe it'll woe the worries and maybe they don't have to make a move at the trade deadline. Maybe we keep developing on that side. Another part of it for me is that the Colts, they had a touchdown right in their hands and they fumble it out of the end zone as he's celebrating. I think that changes this game so much in so many ways, but I want to open this up a little bit more because you talked about Daniel Jones and his 2 picks in this game. We talked about Justin Herbert being on the MVP ballot as well. They both have bad games this week. Does this as much change the MVP ballot as, any other game would? I mean, this is typical games from both Daniel Jones and Justin Herbert. So if we already had them elevated to the level of maybe they're 1 and 2 in the MVP ballot, why would this game deter that?
I think this game's just really interesting because, I mean, these teams are 3 and 1 now, and I mean, they're putting it all out on the field, and it's just not working for them. And Daniel Jones, it's just been really disappointing because you've seen him play with other teams, and he has not played to this caliber before. So what is it with the Colts? What did the Colts do to Daniel Jones, and how can he keep up that stamina? It's really interesting, and I don't know about Justin Herbert either, really.
Yeah, I think that there's really no answer to it right now. We're going to have to see more games as it goes on. But I want to move on to a different game, that being the Chiefs and Ravens. It was our game of the week. Maybe Packers-Cowboys for some other people, but I think Chiefs-Ravens, both teams being 1 and 2 with their backs up against the wall. The Chiefs come out victorious, 37-20. What is your takeaway?
My takeaway is that the Chiefs own the Ravens. I mean, they've played against each other 15 times since 1999, and the Chiefs have won 10 out of 15 of those games. It's insane. And the Chiefs, I mean, this is expected from them. You know it's September. They're taking a slow start to the season. This happens every year, and every year at the beginning of the season, everyone's like, are the Chiefs still good? I don't know. And then there they are, right in the Super Bowl every single time. So it's just not surprising from the Chiefs. What I think it is surprising is the Ravens coming into this season. They were talked about as a Super Bowl team, and now, I mean, the Ravens are just depleted. There's nothing good going on with them right now.
So not only, you mentioned the record since 1999, not only are they 10 and 15, but Mahomes versus Lamar, Mahomes is 6 and 1 versus Lamar. So talk about owning, that's as much as it gets. I think that the headline here, or the takeaway from this game, is that the Chiefs are back. Their offense is so back. It is the first 30-point game that they've had since January when they were in the playoffs against Buffalo, and they only scored 32 in that. 37, I don't know how long ago it's been, but it has been a while. I think that in this game, Xavier Worthy really exploded right onto the field. We saw it from the first snap. He was making an impact, and I can only imagine what Rashee Rice being back will look like now, because I underestimated myself what Xavier Worthy would look like when he came back. Can you imagine Rashee Rice on that field as well? That offense is going to continue to explode, and Mahomes really had a perfect game here. I mean, you can't nitpick any part of this game. He made the right passes, the right decisions. He didn't make any mistakes because that would have got the Ravens back into the game. It's what we talk about with every quarterback, but Mahomes plays at the highest caliber. I think after this week, you can't question that he's still the best quarterback in the league. If you want to give it to Josh Allen and the Bills, I will just remind you that every September, they always look like the best team in the NFL. They always do. So keep that in your mind, and then maybe come back to the conversation when we're headed towards January, when we're headed towards February, and the Chiefs have made their 7th straight AFC championship. It's just normal activity for the Chiefs. On the other side of it, the Ravens with Lamar. Lamar goes down with a hamstring injury. This isn't good for them. They fall 2 games behind the Steelers in the division now. If Lamar's not able to get back, they fall even more. So now you have to rely more on Derrick Henry, which is something they didn't do during the game. When are the Ravens going to learn that when you're against the Chiefs, you can't put it all on Lamar? Lamar's not going to be Superman. And the Bills do this well with James Cook. They get him going, and they see if we need to use Josh Allen as Superman. And if they do, they'll pull it out. But if they don't, they don't. And that's what you need to do if you're the Ravens going into these following games, because your quarterback's not going to be good if it's not Lamar, and if it is Lamar, he's battling coming back from an injury, so you need to keep it slow.
Yeah, what's interesting about the Ravens is not only Lamar injured, but there's 7 players injured on this team. It's just not a good look for them. And like you said before, this is normal for the Chiefs. It's normal for the Bills. It's just a normal September in football.
I want to move to our last game, that being Packers and Cowboys. It actually ended in a tie last night. I stayed up for this game, 40-40 tie. It was a super interesting game right down to the last play when McManus put it through for the tie. What is your takeaway from this?
I find it interesting that you said this was an interesting game, because I thought it was a game of back and forth, and oh, you scored, oh, you're up 3, oh, now we got 4, and just like back and forth.
More of a defensive game for you.
Yes. So the offense did not do what it needed to do, and this was on both sides. You could say it equally for the Packers, for the Cowboys. It was just like, fine. I mean, Jordan Love played, and he played well, and, that's just how it's supposed to be. He did his job. He showed up. He did his job. The same thing about Dak Prescott. Like, both sides of the story here is almost the exact same. They had so many yards. I mean, I think together it combined for 900. So it was just an insane number.
Yeah, I mean, they both combined passing for 650 yards. Total offense, I think, was about 900. They had 6 TDs. Pickens and Romeo Doubs put on a show. My question is, imagine if CeeDee Lamb played this game. That would be even better. I think that it really opened up for both sides on the offense. But my thing here and my takeaway is, what happened to the Packers that we saw in Week 1? Because they faced the Lions in Week 1, and maybe it was the Week 1 woes for the Detroit Lions, because their offense didn't come out humming. They've came out humming every other week since, only scoring 14 in Week 1. So if you're the Packers, what happened on the defensive end, and how are you going to fix it? They're headed into a bye week, so that's the optimism that you're going to leave this game with. We're headed into a bye week, but now we're chasing the Lions for the division. We're not even up in the division anymore after such a statement win in Week 1 that elevated, for some people, them to the number 1 spot. I don't know how it was for some people, but you can't overreact to something like Week 1, because we saw the Detroit Lions come out slow. We see teams come out slow like the Chiefs. They're 2-2 right now, and they've been to 7 straight AFC championships, or maybe they will this year. But it is just so weird to me how this Packers defense has deterred every single game since. One kind of little thing that I have about overtime is that overtime should probably be extended, because the Packers getting the ball with 3.5 minutes, whereas the Cowboys get it first, and they get to just use all the time they want. They had a 6.5-minute drive. I understand that the Packers did not use the clock correctly, and Matt LaFleur definitely said that a bunch. He said, we didn't use the clock correctly. We have a lot of young guys. I need to be better. The team needs to be better. But if you're going to say that, you need to get your guys rolling. I understand you're the youngest team in the NFL, but they need to get it rolling. They need to be better.
I agree. And I want to go back really quick. When you're talking about CeeDee Lamb and you were hoping CeeDee Lamb was in this game, I mean, look at George Pickens, though. This was a great game for him when he had 8 receptions, and he just started to fit in well with this squad. So I think kind of CeeDee Lamb being out elevated him a little bit, and now he feels a bit more comfortable to play with this team. So I am interested in that for this season. But going back to the Packers and their defense, I think it really needs to step up, because I think this year the league is so defensive, and it's usually you're highlighting the offense, and now when you're winning games, it's because of the defense.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I want to move into our next segment because we've gone a little bit over time here. But let's go to stock up or stock down. I've got some teams here for you. You're going to tell me, should I stock up on them or stock down? First of all, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you have to stock up on them. This is a no-brainer. I mean, they played a decently good game against an undefeated team, and that's great for them. And the Bucs are just going up from here. Their stamina is up, their run is up, everything about them is up. They're the top team in the NFC South right now, going 3-1, and as long as they keep up their momentum, this is a team to watch.
Yeah, they're in an easy division, and they still could get the 1 seed even after a big loss to the Eagles like this. The Eagles are in a little more competitive division, and they lost all their key pieces, basically. So Mike Evans on offense, imagine if he's there, he's their number 1 receiver, and then on defense, you have some other key injuries as well, which mitigate what you can do against an Eagles team that came out and ran several variations of the tush push to confuse you, leave Vita Vea really infuriated on that defensive line. I think it looks better going into these other weeks as guys get healthier. Hopefully we don't see more injuries from this team. And I really think that they shut down doubters as far as closing out these one-score games, because they played these one-score games against really inferior teams. And now they finally get back to doing what they're doing, which is keeping it close against these contenders, keeping themselves as hopefully the kryptonite of the Eagles as it goes forward. Let's move to the Chargers. Stock up or stock down?
Looking at the Chargers, you're going to stock down. They will trick you. They will think that they're going up, and you're like, oh, the Chargers are going up. No, they are not. They have an easier schedule ahead, but looking at the end of the season, they're going against hard team. So they are going down, unfortunately. And, they're going to start falling behind when their first loss was handed to them by Jaxon Dart.
Yeah, I have to agree. You have to stock down after this, and it's just playing it safe. You have to play it safe because now, until a better run game is established for the Chargers and it gets out of Herbert's hands more, because we see what it looks like when it's in his hands week to week, it finally wears down. I think they got to get Amari and Hampton going into this run game. I think it would really elevate the offense, balance it out, get Justin Herbert to throw the ball less, make them look like a better team, kind of what the Steelers looked like this week. But as well, the Chiefs, like I mentioned before, are back in this division, so you have to stock down if you're playing it safe. Let's move to our next one, that being the Ravens. Stock up or stock down?
Stock down on the Ravens. I mean, week 1 wasn't just a fluke when they were playing against the Bills. This was the big game. Yeah, no. You're stocking down on the Ravens. Everyone's injured, and you do have some people coming back for Sunday's game, but are they even ready to play? This is an injury-riddled team, and they are just failing after failing.
Yeah, this Ravens defense, you have to stock down on this team just because of that defense. They are the worst defense in the NFL, ranking last in nearly all categories. And even if Lamar comes back, I can't have faith that this team is going to win week in and week out. I understand who they played. They played the Lions. They played the Bills. They played the Chiefs. Explosive offenses as far as we know, and contenders for the Super Bowl. But when we're looking forward, we need to be safe with this Ravens team. We can't overestimate what they are, and especially myself included, overestimated what they were coming into this week. They had a great opening drive. I felt confident about myself, and then after that, it really just exploded into nothingness, and they didn't look like the team that they usually are. I don't know what to think.
Me neither.
Let's move on to the Colts. Colts are an interesting one. Stock up or stock down?
I am going to stock down on the Colts. Daniel Jones had so much potential with the Colts, and I think he used all that potential in the first 3 weeks. I think this 4th week was really rough for him, but he's not the only one struggling here. I mean, when you're looking at other players on the team like Mitchell, you are using irresponsible ball handling, and that's how you're losing games here. And these players need to be disciplined, and it's not just those two, it's everybody on this team, and you're seeing it fall apart right now.
I'm going to stock up on the Colts. I really like what they're doing this season, and even though they had a bad game, and Danny Dimes especially had a bad game, they were still in it to the last possession, and that shows a lot. The Rams had to play perfect to be in this game with the Colts, and the Colts didn't play perfect, and they were still in the game. It was basically that fumble into the end zone away from going into overtime, and especially we have to consider the fact that Jonathan Taylor had a bad game. He's not going to have a bad game like that again. I can't see it this season because he's been red hot, and if he continues that streak, the Colts are going to be amazing, and I think that they could be a top seed in the AFC.
Oh, we'll see. I'm not too sure about that one.
We'll have to see. Let's move into our last segment, that being game grip. I want to know what your key component to this game is heading into next week and heading into week 5. We have Thursday Night Football with Niners-Rams.
So week 5 is an interesting week for me, and I want to look at the Niners-Rams, like you said. So a freshly healed Brock Purdy is ready to take on the Rams defense. It's highly regarded right now. Are you ready for it? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I don't know about this. This is a very interesting one for me. But for the Rams on their side of it, if they can stop McCaffrey, I think it shuts down this Niners offense. And I don't think that Brock Purdy is ready to face this defensive front. Jared Verse is ready to get his revenge after that Eagles game that disappointed him. He comes into this week, has a great game against the Colts, and I think he's even hungrier this week. I think Brock Purdy's going to get eaten up by this Rams defense. I think it might be a low-scoring game for the Niners, and if Stafford can even play just a little bit like last week, I think they win this game. Let's move to Ravens-Texans. Texans and Ravens both need a win in this game.
I am going to go with the Ravens for this game just because they have the home field advantage and the Texans are 0-2 when they're away. But that might be the only reason I am going with the Ravens for this game. Like I said, they have some injury returns coming on Sunday, but I mean, I don't know if there's really much potential here for the Ravens, but this is where they really need to persevere and really show off.
So I think it could be better for the Ravens this week compared to last week, facing a Texans defense that probably isn't as good as the Chiefs defense, especially headed into playoff territory. But for the Ravens, if they have Lamar, the Texans need to stop him on critical third downs. If you can get Lamar off the field, you win this game. If you can hold them to field goals, you win this game. Hopefully. I hope so. CJ Stroud had a little bit of a better game this week. I don't have faith in you, buddy. I hope you do well this week. I hope that the Texans get back on track to make this AFC South just a little more interesting, but I don't really have any faith in them. I don't know what's going to happen this game. Hopefully, for them, the Ravens don't have Lamar. Let's move to our next game, that being the Bucs and Seahawks. What's your game grip?
So the interesting thing about the Bucs and the Seahawks here is one of the teams is coming off a win, another one off a loss, but they're both 3-1 right now. So this is really important. So the Seahawks have more time to regroup for this game, but sometimes too much rest could be a little damaging to your team. And the Bucs are coming off an Eagles loss, but like we said, that was such a great loss for the Bucs. Even though they lost, it's still really important. Their momentum's up here, so this will be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think that both teams need to keep the hot hand going, that being the running game. Bucky Irving, as we mentioned before, had 107 yards, but the Seahawks had 130 yards rushing total last game. They really got it going on the ground as well, so keep the hot hand going. I would keep it out of the quarterback's hands. I think that Baker played a great game last week until he had that late end zone interception, but I would keep it out of his hands. I would keep it with the young guys, get some reliable routes down the field that you can absolutely complete, kind of what we saw in the Chiefs game. I think that if they play it safe, both teams, I think it'll be a competitive game through in and throughout. Mm-hmm. Let's move to our next one, that being the Commanders taking on the Chargers.
So I know the Chargers had a little bit of a messy game. I know the Commanders had a really big messy game. And going into this week, it might be a little bit of a mess. I'm not going to lie. But I think Justin Herbert knows how to handle this Chargers team still. And I know there are some issues, but you just need to be watching for the Chargers specifically. I don't think the Commanders could really pull through for this one.
Yeah, I have to agree on that side of it. Is I think the Commanders, if they can get a win, it'd be nice to keep in that division and be competitive, because if the Eagles fall to a couple of losses or get in a funk, that'd be great for the Commanders, having Jaden Daniels back. But I'm not watching it for the Commanders. I'm watching it for the Chargers. I think that the Chargers, their game grip is hope and pray that Justin Herbert comes back better than ever. Hope and pray on your knees, because if he does not come back and isn't better, this Chargers team is looking at, you might be 3-2 and the Chiefs are 1 win away from you, and all of a sudden your season's falling apart and it's only week 5.
You know it's a little rough when your game plan is hope and pray, though.
Yeah, it has to be a little rough. After last week, that's all I could say. Let's move to Pats and Bills. What's the game grip?
So the Patriots really say that they want to take down the Bills in this rivalry. Who doesn't want to take down the Bills? They're undefeated. Of course you want to take them down. That was such an obvious answer coming from the Patriots team. But luckily for the Patriots is they're having a stronger defense, and we're getting into week 5, so you might see the Bills slip a little bit.
As the season advances, for the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills, New England needs to make Josh Allen pass. If you can make Josh Allen pass, it'll open up the game and make the Bills just a little bit uncomfortable, because it's not that Josh Allen's a bad passer, but they'd rather have a game like they did against the Jets where they get the run game going and they could pull Josh Allen by the second half. They would love that. But against the Patriots, they had a big statement win last week. I understand that the Panthers aren't that good, but to crush a team like that, it's great momentum heading into this week. I think it'll be a more interesting game than we actually think.
I agree.
Let's move to our last game, that being Chiefs taking on the Jags. This should be a good one.
Yeah, I think this will be a good one because even though the Jags have the better record, the Chiefs have better history. So I think that's the interesting part here is now you're seeing the Chiefs switch gears into their regular phasing throughout the season. So this is where it's going to start getting really intense against the Jags, and this will be a key game. I really think so, just to see will the Chiefs continue to be better.
Yeah, I totally agree, because you have to make the Chiefs earn their drives. Meaning, the Ravens kind of gave up a lot of stuff over the top last week. We talked about Xavier Worthy, but even Travis Kelce getting into that game and gaining his momentum heading into this next game. I think that if you eliminate shots over the top and you keep it on the ground for the Chiefs and make them earn those drives, because they didn't really get that running game going last week. It was pretty stagnant for most of the game. And it was just Mahomes putting on the heroics every time. But if you're the Jags, if you contain Mahomes, keep him in the pocket, you contain over the top, and I know that's a big ask against this Chiefs team that's gaining momentum, but if you can do that, you will be in this game, because I think Travis Etienne can get it on the ground. I think that if Lawrence has a mistake-free game, they could be in this game like they were in that AFC Championship.
I mean, Travis Etienne's been like the key player of this week, honestly, so I think he's really important to watch out for this game.
Absolutely. That has been Game Grip and this special edition of The Standings. If you enjoyed watching, we've got more happening tomorrow. You'll have to stay tuned.